Okay, so our topic is America's moral decline, and this should be lesson 64. And the first topic under this section is moral philosophies, and these are just the list of ones that I'm going to be talking about. And then the first one is globalism, which is basically just the perspective that the world needs to unite under one economic, political, and religious world order. And globalists would say that the boundaries between nation states are insignificant and that the global community is more important than state sovereignty, and therefore this encourages immigration between countries. And globalists promote economic oversight by organizations like the World Trade Organization, the International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank, and they also encourage Christianity's influence on public life. So the second topic is environmentalism, and this promotes preserving the environment's natural setting above man's benefit. And some environmentalists have worked to impose environmental regulations such as the Kyoto Protocol and the Paris Agreement, which have been reached through the United Nations. And if these guidelines were implemented, the cost per year to control global emissions would exceed 1 trillion. Then the third topic is postmodernism. And postmodernism basically rejects the truth of the past and just any truth of moral framework at all, and encourages people to live their own truth. And it has roots with a group of Marxist intellectuals who would say that the capitalist oppression of workers was occurring not only in the economy but in culture as an entirety. And postmodernist critical studies are very prominent in American universities today. Then the fourth topic is multiculturalism. And this is basically the view that all cultures should be equally represented in society. And they believe that advancing the achievements of Western civilization was an act of hatred towards other cultures and encouraged people to define themselves by race, sex, or sexual orientation rather than the pillars of Western civilization, such as the nation, family, and God. And then the last topic is speech codes and political correctness. And views of some leftist professors and their students led a movement to suppress speech that did not fulfill the aims of multiculturalism called political correctness. And mostly in college campuses, they developed speech codes that demanded hypersensitivity towards saying anything or acting in a way that might offend a certain group of people. And insensitive speeches or actions that were deemed politically incorrect or hate speeches might receive punitive actions. And many colleges today still maintain these ideals. So, yeah.
All right. So, homosexuality and gender dysphoria. So, Vermont was the first state to legalize civil unions. And a civil union was basically just marriage between homosexual couples. Um, and then new laws. In 2003, the Supreme Court ruled against any law that criminalized homosexuals. So basically, giving them the same rights that straight couples would have. And then when Obama was elected president, he wanted to kind of normalize homosexuals and like the LGBTQ community and make it like more incorporated into the American way of life. So, and then so the DOMA was the Defense of Marriage Act. And in 2011, it was no longer enforced because it was deemed unconstitutional. Because the DOMA was basically marriage that was defined between a man and a woman. So, this was also shown in a case called Obergefell versus Hodges, and it said that all states had to legalize same-sex marriage, so it wasn't up to the states whether they could legalize it. It was just everyone had to. So then the Religious Freedom and Restoration Acts. So these are basically state laws protecting religious rights of people, especially Christians. And so there was a few cases, but one of the most popular ones was Masterpiece Cake Shop versus Colorado Civil Rights Commission. So in this court case, the owner of Masterpiece Cake Shop was a Christian woman and she refused to make a cake for a homosexual wedding. So they took her to court. Ended up winning because of her religious freedom um, and like her right to exercise that. So this kind of brought about like the fight with was Religious Freedom Restoration Acts like counteracting the anti-discrimination laws against homosexuals. And so that brought about state laws that protected the rights of objectors to LGBTQ communities and what they stood for, and the right to deny service to whoever they wanted to based on their religion.
Okay, so this is Cultural Decay Part 2. So during this time period, different forms of birth control were becoming more prevalent. The first way being through a growing popularity of abortion. So in 1973, Roe v. Wade was passed and it legalized abortion in America. Since that passing, there has been 60 million babies that have been aborted in America. Another way that birth control was becoming more prevalent was through a company called Planned Parenthood. This company was started by Margaret Sanger in 1921. So she started this company as a way to reduce the number of people that she viewed as inferior to her. The way that she tried to do this was by advocating birth control to them to reduce the number of children that they had. Today, it stemmed into the company that is a reproductive healthcare company, and it's grown so much that it's responsible for a third of abortions that occur in America today, which is 20 million of the 60 million abortions that have occurred since Roe v. Wade. So this company was publicly supported by President Obama in contrast to Bush. After Obama became president, after Bush, he was very vocal about his pro-choice views. On the other hand, Bush was very pro-life, and that could be seen in the Partial Birth Abortion Act. So this became a thing because as the new millennium was seeing more and more babies getting aborted, they started to become more pro-life and they started to advocate against things like partial birth abortion. Partial birth abortion is when a baby is being born and at the same time the doctor will actually abort the baby. So what Bush did is he passed the Partial Birth Abortion Act in 2003, which made this practice illegal. After Bush, obviously Obama became president, and he started to reverse a lot of his pro-life things. So the next issue we're going to be talking about is euthanasia. So what this is basically the elderly or infirm people claiming the right to die since they're either sick or old, and since death will be coming soon for them, they they claim that they have the right to choose when their death is, or their family member has the right to choose. The problem with this was that the Supreme Court had never ruled that euthanasia was legal. So, what some states did was they passed something called physician assisted suicide. It's exactly how it sounds. The doctors will inject a lethal dose of a substance into the patient so it kills them. The first state to legalize this was Oregon in 1994. 26 years later, in 2023, 9 other states have legalized physician assisted suicide. Okay, so the last issue we're going to be talking about is gun violence. In Las Vegas, in 2017, there was a shooting at a concert, and a man actually shot through the floor of a hotel room. And by doing so, he killed 58 people, wounded over 400, and in total, there were 869 injuries. This was so significant because it was raising more debates over gun control. So, one side decided that in order to prevent these mass shootings that were becoming more popular, we needed to develop more gun control laws and become more strict on the ones that we already had. One way that people were deciding we should do this was by reinstating the assault weapons ban that had previously expired in 2004. The other side said that in order to defend ourselves from mass shootings, we needed to allow law-abiding citizens to bear arms in public. So a case that had to do with this issue was McDonald versus Chicago. This happened in 2010, and the Supreme Court ruled that an individual had the right to keep and bear arms on a state level, meaning that the states couldn't infringe on an individual's right to keep or bear arms. Despite this ruling, though, a lot of state and local ordinances made it very difficult for individuals to keep and bear arms. So that is the end of our lesson. Thanks for watching.